It is a functioning, criminal justice system can play an important role in ensuring that victims of gender-based violence are able to get recourse. In South Africa, in the past few months, the police prosecution services and the courts have been put under unprecedented strain as cases of brutality against women and children continued amid the COVID-19 crisis. Prudence Mabasa, who is a gender-based violence survivor, and Dr. Matotoka, who is a researcher at the Commission for Gender Equality, join us now for this particular discussion. Good evening to you both, and thank you so much for your time. Prudence, I'm going to begin with you. Certainly, when one reads the letter that you have written, and you are hoping that as you are writing this letter, somebody who can help you was going to then be able to reach out to you and be able to assist you as you faced such a horrific ordeal as you described, rape at the hands of someone, and really trying to get justice. Can you tell us briefly about what happened to you?
Good evening, everyone. On the 27th of November last year, it was Black Friday, I was raped by the caretaker of the lodge that I was staying at in Limpopo. So I won't disclose which lodge and everything like that because it is an ongoing case. But it was on the day of departure, so I was departing on that day, and I was raped on that day. Prior to it, obviously I was a virgin, and it was, the ordeal was one. I mean, like I've worked with victims before, but I don't think anybody can actually prepare you for the ordeal itself. I tried to say, well, I said no, not even tried. I said no plenty of times. I screamed on top of my lungs, but I still couldn't get through to him. After the ordeal, obviously, I didn't know the area, so I'm not very familiar with, even though my family is from Limpopo, I'm not familiar with Venda. So I'm Tsonga, but I'm not familiar with Venda. So the language barrier was like a problem. And also just being in a place where I didn't even know where the police station was. There wasn't clear directions where the police station was. So I decided to go straight home, which is in Brakpan and in Joburg. So I took a taxi, went back home, came back, obviously keeping all the evidence intact. And even after all this, when I got here, and I got to the SAPS here in Brakpan, I reported it here, got my rape kit done, which was done at the hospital that we have here. And just going through all of that, and just having what happened afterwards. So obviously with the detectives taking what he needed, obviously the rape kit and also my testimony, and all that, still having it to be transferred. So what happens is that you can report a rape wherever you are, or wherever you wanted to report it, but if it happened in a different province, it needs to be transferred back to the province in which it happened. So even though I reported it here in Gauteng, it was transferred back to Limpopo, where I got the case number and everything like that. And obviously this happened on the day. I reported on the day it happened because I was my departure date was on the 27th in the morning. The rape happened in the morning, before 7 o'clock in the morning. And I reported around 2 o'clock. Obviously the long wait for all that. And then the case was transferred the next week, and the guy was arrested, I believe 2 weeks after the case was transferred. We went back, and I had to identify the guy, and he was arrested. He is out on bail now, but but the rape kit itself, for it to be taken to the lab, had to take a whole pushing. There wasn't clear directives as to where it was. And for me, according to my knowledge, in January it was supposed to be taken to the FSL, the forensic science lab, police lab. But when it came to when I called on February, March, I called and my investigating officer told me that there had been some sort of delay, and he doesn't know exactly why, because they believe they can't locate my rapist. So I need to go and follow up at the FDS here in Brackham to find out exactly what's happening. So I went and I followed up. They asked around and managed to locate it, so that it was with one of the other warrant officers lying in their office, having the wrong case number. And then they said that they would submit. So I left March, obviously just giving them the time of which they can do. Obviously, everybody's busy. I understand that there's a shortage of staff. April came, and I think it was April 12th. I contacted my investigating officer again, and when I contacted him again, he just said that obviously the DNA results can't come back, because the DNA was sent back from the lab because there was something that was miscased or miswritten or some sort of thing that happened. He doesn't know exactly what it is, because the FDS of Brackham hadn't contacted him regarding. So I had to go and follow up again.
And
I followed up.
If I can just, pardon me for coming in there. I'd like to bring in Dr. Matotoka just before I come back to you to really continue with the story, because certainly this is one of trauma, because now you've had to go to various places in order to be able to try and get assistance. Dr. Matotoka, certainly as someone who is doing research at the Commission for Gender Equality, is this story uncommon?
No, thank you, and good evening to you and the viewers and the listeners. Sadly, the story that Prudence is narrating to us, it's nothing new to the Commission. It's quite common, and unfortunately, it's hindering access to justice, which is a constitutional right to everyone in South Africa. We, as the Commission, we've actually taken note of the issue. We have had an engagement with the head of the National Police Services, General Sithole, back in 2019 to address this issue, because the crux of the delay in DNA results, they also have an impact on the granting of bail at the pre-trial stage. So most of the legal practitioners in the courts, they capitalize on the fact that the delay, the DNA results are going to take quite for some time. We've seen cases that the delay takes up to 12 months and even more. And the practitioners would argue that you cannot keep the accused person in custody until the DNA results are out, which on its own, it's now affecting the victim's family, because this person will be back in society. So it's something that we know that it's there, but what we have done with the South African Police Service, we have put them in Mora, and we have engagements where this is going to be something that they're going to address. And I know that in the past couple of days, they even released a media statement where they have made indications of the measures now that they are putting in place to ensure that the backlog of DNA results is addressed. I think they've mentioned something about 170,000 backlog that they have as SAPS. And if you put that in context, that means about 170,000 cases are now pending because of the backlog that is currently there. And it definitely talks against the principle that the Constitution aims to achieve, that is access to justice. Prudence talks about the ups and downs that she went through to try to get feedback on the DNA results. And that is a travesty of justice on its own, because if you think about our rural women in remote rural areas, they will not be able to do what Prudence is able to do. So essentially it will mean their cases will be left in limbo. So that honestly, it hampers on access to justice, and is something that SAPS is currently addressing. But we as the Commission, we play a very fundamental role of monitoring the process. There are cases where we were able to take them on with the South African Police Service. They've been classified as cold cases where they are being prioritized. So we know that this thing, it definitely exists. It's something that hampers access to justice. And we do think that there should be accountability, especially where there is a deliberate or negligent on the part of investigating officers. Because on one hand, DNA tests are not done expeditiously by the investigating officers. Wrong samples are taken to the laboratory. So that brings around the competency and the efficiency of the South African police services to render the services. And this is very critical when one thinks about the gender-based violence, because you're talking about the dignity of survivors, you're talking about their equality, their freedom. When somebody is subjected to gender-based violence, they're stripped of their dignity. And we know that the courts of this country have reaffirmed that the right to equality and dignity is bestowed on everyone. So when you take that away, there has to be a duty on the state institutions to act accordingly and expeditiously.
Prudence Mabasa, who is a rape survivor, as well as Dr. Dennis Matotoka, who is a researcher at the Commission for Gender Equality. Prudence, certainly what you're describing is a very difficult story to really listen to, and it's even more difficult to hear Dr. Matotoka just talking about how it's not uncommon, for such cases to find their way to the Gender Commission, or for them to even hear about such cases, because that even in itself is quite alarming. How was the trauma for you when you were going up and down trying to find out what's happening with your kid, why the delays, and at the same time you've had to take the courageous trip back to Gauteng, a familiar place for you, in order to try and get justice?
Yeah, no. I think it's been a very hard time. I mean, like as I said, I've worked with victims before, and no one can prepare you for it. And I think I struggled with the fact that, like, it is like as he mentioned. I mean, like when he was talking about the dignity part, I kept on nodding because of the fact that it felt like my dignity was taken and it was being tossed around, and it's as if that rape kit is your dignity, and it's being left and it's being mishandled, and it's like they didn't understand what it meant to me, because it is part of me. I'm just having that rape kit taken from me because it was the day in which it happened. So the pain was still fresh, and having those swabs being taken from you, and it seems like it's something so feeble, but because your body has been torn into, and it has been, it's like breaking an entry. Somebody broke an entry to your own body, and you can't exit. It's like you can take a break and go to another holiday or everything like that from a home, but you can't take a holiday from a raped body. So it's almost like your body is always there, something that you have to recover while having, and it has been. When I felt like, okay, it's okay, I can let them be. Now I have to follow up and do their job as well as heal at the same time, and it takes me back, and it gives me a bit more trauma. Just even going back to go and identify the guy. I mean, like, my family even had a function, and I told them that I'm not coming. I can't stand Limpopo. Just me going into Limpopo just gives me chills, So. It is very traumatic, and I just wish they could understand what it means for a victim to always be pressuring. And I'm thankful for the support that I have, because the people that I have around me keep on praying for me, keep on pushing me to continue. But yeah, you have to stand for yourself. You have to stand for yourself.
And Doctor, then when you hear of such, obviously this then becomes a case of secondary victimization, as she's now having to go travel all these places and keep on narrating the story and keep on not getting this justice, because then it means, as the call is always to say, things need to improve at station level, because the first point of contact as the officers, they need to be able to be supportive and be able to assist rape victims. But do our stations have capacity for this?
That's a very interesting question, because our findings in terms of our research and in terms of our own investigations, we found that to be a gap in terms of how the investigators interact with survivors to start with. The insensitivity and the patriarchal attitudes that are sometimes demonstrated by some of the investigators is alarming. But we have actually engaged, as I said previously, the head of the National South African Police Service. And one of the things that we've agreed on was to have a sensitization workshop across all the stations in South Africa. We have commenced with those across the provinces. We oversaw them. And what came out clearly in those dialogues was that some of the errors that we are seeing, the comedy of errors that we are witnessing in the pre-investigation processes, is because of lack of training and lack of understanding and the impact that their investigations have ultimately on the outcome of the case that they are handling. We must appreciate that when an investigating officer fails to do a thorough job, or rather a thorough investigation from the onset, it impacts the trial process. It impacts the outcome of the trial, that is the sentencing process. And there are a number of ways that we're able to find these gaps. This includes confessions. You'll find that an accused person confesses to have committed a gender-based violence offense. And when you scrutinize that, and when the defense attorneys poke holes into such a confessions, you find that the confession was done because of a coercion, or it was done due to torture, or it was obtained in an inhumane way. And we know that the fruit of the poisonous tree is not admissible in the court. So that ultimately affects even the outcome of the case, and it results now in the accused being excused from the trial or not found guilty. And what does that mean? It means he has to go back to society, and the survivors still have to interact with this person one way or another. So investigators play a crucial role. We have also noted that even in terms of bail applications, the court system rely heavily on the information that is obtained by the investigating officers. The law, or rather the Criminal Procedure Act, specifically states that it will not be in the interest of justice to grant bail for somebody who is likely to evade trial. And to make sure that this requirement is achieved, the investigating officer is expected to verify certain things, such as the physical address, whether it's a residential address or a workplace environment. They don't do that thoroughly. And we have seen a number of accused persons now not appearing in court anymore. Those who are pleaded guilty and they were on an extended bail, they are no longer appearing in court, especially those who are from foreign countries as well. They are not located. We have minor children in Limpopo, those in Mpumalanga, in Tonga, whose the accused cannot be allocated. Tracers have been appointed and they are nowhere to be found. So it means there will never be justice for such victims or survivors. And those are the gaps that we are able to identify, that we need to strengthen the pre-trial stages, where seasoned investigators need to be appointed when it comes to gender-based violence, because we're dealing with something that strips the dignity of a human being. So it cannot just be that we're going to put people who are not specialized, people who are not well-trained, people who can show not empathy, people who can show empathy and understand that this is about a human life, this is about dignity, and the Constitution requires us to ensure that we protect those by all means necessary within the ambits of the law.
And Prudence, has your rape kit been found?
Yes. So my rape kit was found the first time, supposedly. I'm saying allegedly because, like, in my complaint, it also stated. And then obviously I complained. So the letter you mentioned is a complaint that I wrote to SAPS on the 16th of April. Because they were not getting back to me. And then on the next week, on the Monday, I contacted them. And then I found out that it has been sent to the lab, and I got a receipt that from the lab receipt. And then also went to confirm at the SAP station to find out that it has been in fact sent through. I then also got the complaints being obviously interviewed and everything like that. So that was already, I had an interview. They realized that, yes, the complaint was founded, and then such and such should not be happening and whatnot. So, yeah, so my rape kit supposedly has been found. But as I said, there's a lot of, I don't know, they call it, I feel like I've got reasons. I've got reasons to doubt in some cases because of the fact that like it took so long to locate it and it took so long for it to get to the lab. But at the same time, I'm trusting that now has got their party together and have placed the right to the lab.
And if I can then ask you at the back of what you're saying, are you then suggesting that you're not confident in this particular matter and that you don't think you might obtain justice?
Honestly, I think from the very beginning, I think you always have that in the back of your mind. I mean, like, the fact that I have had so many friends and family who have been raped. Some of them have reported, some of them have not reported. And to find none who have gotten justice. Somehow, I know that the SAPS also have their own. I know that I think they said 30% or 40% end up convicted. So I'm not really sure. But at the same time, shall I get justice because of what has happened? I should hope that I do. But in cases that I don't, I should hope that this alarms and raises an alarm into what we need to fix in our justice system so that this doesn't happen to somebody else. And I think that for me is the biggest aim because I believe that it's more than just about me. I think I was telling one of the producers that I could be silent now because supposedly my complaint has been done. But the problem is we have celebrity cases. And in our celebrity cases, where you have your Uyenenes and your Garabos, justice is done swiftly because the public eye is on it. But what about the lady who doesn't have a hashtag? What about the victim that doesn't have a hashtag? Because I don't want to say a victim is a certain gender. But what about the victim who doesn't have a hashtag? What about them? Will they get justice? Because the standard is low and negligent. So we need to change the standard at station level, as you mentioned, that every single person gets justice. That even if not every person, but let's take one rapist out of the streets at a time. It's one less person to worry about. That's all we're asking for. That's all I'm asking for. I just want this one guy to go into jail so that he doesn't rape anybody else. That's all I ask for. I don't know if that could happen. Maybe by my story being out there, others may be aware of what he's capable of, but I'm not sure. I mean, like, I need to be realistic about the fact that the stats are against me.
Dr. Matotoka, a very pertinent question is being asked by Prudence here. What about the victims who do not have hashtags?
And that's a very fundamental question because when it comes to rape cases or gender-based violence, it doesn't matter who you are. The dignity and that is stripped. I mean, you cannot measure it. Whether you're a celebrity or somebody who's in a rural, remote areas, you cannot measure that. It's precisely the reason why we have offices like the Gender Commission in every province, so that they can be able to be accessed by all those women, all those survivors, all those people who have been violated on the ground, so that we can also prioritize on those cases. It's indeed that it's unfortunate that some cases appear to have more priority than others because of social media. But from as far as the Commission is concerned and as far as the rule of law dictates, all cases should be prioritized and all cases should be expedited in terms of processes. Unfortunately, that's not what we are seeing on the ground. Is there hope? Prudence is asking me, is he having hope? Is he having trust that the justice system is going to deliver on a case? We have to measure each case by its own merits. But what I can say with confidence is so far we have also seen a change in terms of the judgments that we are getting from our courts. Before, when you read a court judgment, when it's just rape, it will just be called that, and the prevalence and its impact on society will generally not be emphasized by the courts. But what we are seeing in judgments now, they call it gender-based violence. The courts, the presiding officers mention the prevalence and the need or sentences that serve as deterrents to society. And we see the change in terms of that, and we find comfort that at least even the judiciary themselves, they are able to appreciate that we are dealing with a serious scourge here that has to be called for what it is, a degradation of humankind, and the most fitting sentences needs to be met to ensure that those who are watching, those who are contemplating to commit such offenses can think twice about it. And it's unfortunate that we have to have these sentences before people know how to act better and respect other people as well. We know that in Cape Town, as far as March, we've seen, I think it's the Clotter case, where life sentences were handed over an accused person who raped 2 men between 2015, 2018, and so forth. But we also see comfort in terms of the new systems that the South African Police Service is trying to implement, particularly the forensic exhibit management system that was able to link, that is actually aimed to locate DNA results and the delays of such results. And we know that it was now put up in April last month, I think on the 6th of April. And out of that, they were able to pick up already accused persons who are linked to other cases as well. I think they mentioned one case in particular where an accused person was linked to about 59 cases of rape. So when these systems are put in place, we find comfort, yet it is still early for us to say this system that is being put in place is effective. But so far, as the Commission, we will be closely monitoring it. And where there are gaps, we will be engaging the police officers, or rather the station themselves, so that the gaps can be addressed. We find comfort. It's a difficult journey, but it's worth traveling, because we're talking about the rights of human beings here. We're talking about the safety. We want a society that is free from all oppressions and inequalities. And that is what our legislative mandate of the Commission requires. And that is what is expected of the criminal justice system. Not all is perfect, but where there are gaps, we say report such cases so that we can address each with the relevant officials.
All right. Thank you so much to you both for your time. Prudence, we certainly will be tracking your story to see what happens from here onwards. And thank you so much for your time this evening. That is Prudence Mabasa, who is a rape survivor, as well as Dr. Matotoka, who is a researcher at the Commission for Gender Equality.